Yep, all set.
Hi, this is Debbie Lucci from the Deborah Lucci team from William Ravis Realtors here in Andover, Massachusetts. And we've got a Facebook Live today, and we've got some team members, Mackenzie Cormier and Diana Silva. And we have a special guest, Alex Vispoli. He is a selectman in Andover, one of my favorite Andoverites. He's been a selectman for about 17 years, and we're going to talk today a little bit about zoning. So Alex brought to my attention some of the zoning laws had changed, and we want to just kind of talk about how that is going to affect Andover and what's going on. So what exactly changed, Alex?
So yeah, Debbie, thank you also for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. Well, it's a significant change. It was probably the most significant change in Massachusetts zoning in 5 decades. It was called it started off as a housing choice type of name of this zoning change. Basically, it changes a couple of things. One is one of the governor's goals is to increase housing units in Massachusetts by 135,000 by the year 2025. So that's pretty ambitious, and to do that, there was a lot of discussion about what could do to accelerate this. One of the big changes was to change the threshold for zoning changes in towns like Andover, and that is today when a zoning change is proposed, it's a 2/3 vote at town meeting. The change that the governor just signed into, passed by the legislature, requires only a simple majority. That's probably the biggest change. It will have an effect in Andover. There are kind of 4 different areas, if you want me to touch upon what they
Yeah, so this is across Massachusetts, this change.
It's across Massachusetts, correct. Basically, there are 4 provisions at a high level are multifamily housing as a right, the town meeting quorum vote, special permit quorum vote, and bond requirements for approvals. One of the interesting things is that it provides for a multifamily housing district. Any town, and this we'll talk Andover here, that has an MBTA facility in it will have to create a housing district, a new zoning district, within a half a mile from an MBTA station in this case. And we have 2 stations here, and we're talking Ballardville and downtown Andover, that could qualify, but we have to choose one. And that'll be proposed, and there'll be a town meeting vote to do that. And the carrot is this benefit as far as the multifamily zoning districts. The stick here, the carrot, the stick is that if we don't do this, we'd lose certain MBTA funds to the town.
So how are they going to do this, Alex? I mean, these areas are already built up.
Right.
Single family homes, most of them.
Right, exactly. We will have to designate one of these 2 areas as this new zoning district. And so it provides that a community served by the MBTA must provide at least one reasonably sized zoning district in which multifamily housing is permitted as of right, without the need for a special permit, variance, zoning amendment, waiver, or other discretionary zoning approval, is how the bill is written. Such a district must have a minimum of a housing density of 15 units per acre and no more than 1/2 mile from the nearest commuter rail station, which I mentioned earlier. An MBTA community that fails to comply will not be eligible funds from housing choice initiatives, the local capital project funds, or the Mass Work infrastructure program. And certainly the provision is going to generate discussion in Andover as whether the zoning shall either be at the Ballardville station or at the downtown station.
So what do you see that area looking like?
Well,
after they pick an area, what do you see? What does that area look like? I mean, do you see a lot of single family homes coming down and multis going up, or what do you see?
It's going to be up to whatever gets proposed and what town meeting votes for, right? So it'll be up to the town meeting at a simple majority to decide how to implement that.
It's going to be interesting.
It's gonna be very interesting.
Now, what other changes do you think will happen because of this? Do you have an idea which area they might push towards?
I don't know. We haven't even discussed it yet. As we haven't even discussed because it's just been signed a few weeks ago. It hasn't been discussed at all as far as at the select board meeting or with planning. So I would guess that you'll start to see this. Certainly, there's nothing for this town meeting, which is scheduled in June, by the way, pending the COVID outcomes. But there's been really nothing discussed. It's brand new. It also works with a special permit vote. Special permit vote. Today, you need a supermajority of like the ZBA, and this will change that to a simple majority. So it definitely reduces the threshold of that.
What else do you see being changed by this?
Well, if you think about it, the change applies to, zoning amendments would include residential dimension requirements, right, for smaller setbacks and lot sizes or higher buildings. These are all elements of the zoning. Reduced required residential parking lot ratios, creating mixed-use zones in town centers, creating multifamily and starter home zoning in town centers near transit or any smart growth location, which would be here. Accessory in-law apartments, density. So there's a lot that it can affect.
What about the schools?
It doesn't really affect. It doesn't have any effect on the schools, except that obviously, depending with the density, it may change increase the amount of students, but it doesn't tie anything to the schools directly.
Okay. All right. So what other changes took place during that meeting? What do you see in the future besides that?
Well, that's the big one. I mean, that'll be big. I think it's going to be interesting if it's chosen, if the town chooses to make this zoning district at downtown. It certainly could have an impact in the expansion or the growth of the historic mill district work, and the fact that the town is about to go and put an RFP out to sell the old town yard, those 4 acres there. So there's a lot there. I can't predict. I would guess that there'd be a strong argument to make this zoning district downtown, but there might be a strong argument to make it a ballot bill. So that'll be certainly up to the voters on which one they want to go with.
So now, do you think that this is the only thing that zoning law is really impacting? What else is it impacting besides that?
Those are the high points of it. It's a couple of pages long, the legislation. You have to go through every. I'm sure there are things in there that don't pop up, at the initial reading of it. But these are the four main tenets.
Is it going to affect anything? So do you see this zoning change, anything affecting like, how big the lot sizes are through the entire town? Or is it just this particular area?
Well, it's just this particular area. Again, if there are zoning proposals for different parts of town, it will only need a simple majority to change it versus 2/3. Now, I don't see big swaths of town changing their zoning districts. I don't see that. And there's protections as far as spot zoning, which you can't do. So I think the protections are there, which really is what zoning is for, right? To protect the community and in the interest of what the town wants to be. This just lowers the threshold with the overall objective to increase housing stock in the Commonwealth, specifically around, mass transit.
So what do you think the purpose of this? What was the purpose of this in the beginning? Just to have it? Is it there not enough adequate housing around transportation or?
Yeah, there's a shortage. There's a big shortage in housing in the Commonwealth, and the governor's goal has been to, to try to figure out how to increase this, but give the towns, since no two towns are the same, to give local control to the towns on how they want to grow, but also provide, um, some type of tie-in to the MBTA. So, I think it makes sense from a standpoint of, potentially reducing traffic on the roads, increasing the ridership in the MBTA. So I think, there's a lot of it that makes sense. And again, it gives the control to the community. So each town can decide how they want to implement this. So it's not the state coming and saying, you're going to do this. It gives us the tools to do it. But the biggest thing is the reduction in the threshold of the actual passage. So if you look, and I'll give you an example. If you think not that many years ago, there was a proposal to provide over 55 and over 55 zoning capacity to Andover, and it was supported by the planning board. All the boards supported it, and it failed by just a handful of votes on the supermajority. The majority passed it, but in that case, in that kind of situation, we would have had the over 55, area.
Now, where were they trying to put that?
I think it was just overall. I don't think it was one specific targeted area. It just provided for the capability at that time to do it in Andover.
So, Alex, that the housing that they want to get into town, right?
Mhm.
Is it specific? Is it affordable housing? What type of housing is it? Is it single family, multifamily? Does it not matter?
Yeah, well, it's definitely it would be called a multi-family housing district.
Oh, okay.
So it would tend to, be multifamily.
Yeah.
Why is Andover against 55 plus?
I don't know. As I say, it passed I'm going back it's probably over 10 years ago now that it was proposed. And there were concerns at the time, I think there were concerns that there would be these big housing developments, but as I say, it was 10 years ago or so. I'm just giving the example of what it would take to pass that today. It would be a simple majority.
Mackenzie, do you have any questions? Because I know your dad is like all over stuff like this.
Yeah, he definitely is. I guess I'm not so much. So who usually has to pay attention to all of these zoning changes? Like, I know obviously developers and builders have to pay attention to this, but I mean, for the general public, who else really pays attention to this, and who really needs to?
Well, our planning board, our planning department is probably the area that it starts out, right? So if somebody's interested in something, usually they'll start with having conversations with the planning department. Paul Matarazzo, the director of planning, Lisa Schwartz, he's the planner as well. Usually that happens, and then proposals get developed before articles get put on, town meeting warrants. So, there's a master plan, and the other thing, there's a master plan that we have that's being updated. And in that master plan are elements of what the town would like to see as far as growth moving forward.
So do you see, like, for example, if there was some land available and typically now, like maybe the zoning was an acre lot, do you see that they may be able to get more houses and things like this with less lots, with less acreage?
I think if it's in this new multifamily housing district, it would be multifamily housing is right. So you wouldn't need a special permit for it. In the district, the town would pass what the housing density would be, right? So that the town would designate where this new zoning district would be, and then what the densities would be. That's how that would get set up.
How do you think this is going to affect business if it's located near town? I would think it would be positive for business.
Yeah, I think it's a positive, because if you look at the strategy of the historic mill district, we're looking at, there's been a lot of over the years a lot of input from many residents as far as this whole mixed use concept. And if you look at what the RFP that's going to be going out, it talks about the different mixes of both commercial, housing, arts, transit, walking. There's just a whole host of the mix that the town said that they want. So I think it's going to have a positive effect. I mean, we're really, looking at the historic mill district to be a real breakthrough for the community. It's going to take some time to do, but the first domino to fall, if you will, is going to be the Old Town Yard.
So what do you think that they might put there? Do you think what I see now that they're doing a lot of building, and I don't know that, did you hear anything about like Royal Crest? Have you seen that the apartment buildings across from Merrimack College, they're making that more like, I think, and I've just seen it like 2 seconds, a little bit more like retail on the bottom.
Okay, no, I hadn't seen it. I know. Did the college, was it sold? Was Royal Crest sold?
It must have been sold. I'm not really sure on that, so I don't want to say, but it's just, I've just seen a couple of articles. They were actually having a virtual meeting on it. I think it's like next week, and I'm going to attend that because I'd love to see what was going on.
Right. This is the complex in North Andover across from Merrimack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, do you see something like that? Do you see, because when you look at a lot of new construction now, like in different areas, like Naples, different areas, it's always like retail on the bottom, and then it's more like condos and things like that. Would it be something like that, or would it be more like multiple family homes?
Well, I think that's one of the visions for the Old Town Hall, the Old Town Yard, is this mixed use of retail at the bottom and housing on top. So I think that's something that will be a natural.
And what were they? Is that going to? Where's the new town hall yard?
Well, the new town yard is out off of River Road, Campanelli Drive.
Yeah.
We built that facility. We had the ribbon cutting, I think, in 2019, in March of 2019, and so slowly all the maintenance, the storage of the vehicles, the water department, DPW, everybody now is using that facility.
So the old town yard just sitting there?
It's vacant. It's about to. You were putting an RFP out, which would be. It was passed at this town meeting to allow the select board to choose a developer and who to sell that to. Mm-hmm. And there's a committee that's being formed that's going to judge all the different proposals that come in based on the input that the citizens have provided over the last several years, to see which one scores the highest and meets all these criteria, and will be suggested to the select board on who to sell the property to. So it's a pretty big process, but it's exciting because it's been a long time in coming.
Yeah. So now, if it was going to go in Ballardville, where would it go in Ballardville?
Well, it's it's supposed to be within a half a mile of a facility, so you could probably draw a circle around either one of these places and decide how big it's going to be.
If it's 15, you said 15 units per acre?
The district, it says the way it's written, it says the district must have a minimum housing density of 15 units per acre and no more than 1/2 mile from the nearest commuter rail station.
Hmm. Do you have any idea what these units are going to look like? They're going to be like gardens, townhouses?
Have no idea. It'll be whatever private developer decides to propose. Right. Mm-hmm. The first step, the town's going to create one of these districts, pass what we need to do to comply with the law, and then it's going to be up to the market that decides how things move forward.
How long do you think this is going to take?
I don't know. I really don't know. It could. I would say think things like this usually take time. So I would say, probably a few years or so.
Yeah. Your dad, Mackenzie, would your dad be interested in anything like that?
I don't know, maybe.
Well,
So
I think
what else?
yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. It's a significant change in the way towns rezone and look at rezoning. So I think it'll have a significant over time. It's not going to be something that's going to be flipping a switch, but over time, I think you're going to see, especially since the towns have to designate a new zoning district because of to get the funds from the state. So.
So what else is going on, Alex?
We're getting ready. We just set a town meeting date in June.
Yeah.
Based on best available information. Like last year, we set it in June and then kept moving it out to the fall. So depending on what happens with vaccines and in the COVID situation, there's a couple of proposals that are that you may have read about regarding some large potential funding opportunities. One is for the new proposed West Elementary School, which there's a couple of large funding mechanisms that are going to be proposed for that. One for that, and then another one is called a pension obligation bond, which talks to a way that the town can fund its pensions and take
They've
advantage.
been talking about that for a while.
Yeah, we'll take advantage of low interest rates, and that's something that the town meeting passed the ability for us to go and file home rule petition for special legislation, which was passed, which gives the town the opportunity to put out these bonds to fund our pension obligation. That will go to town meeting, as well as will the West Elementary School, and both of those will be considered debt exclusion overrides. So you'll see that at this town meeting.
All right, so the town yard, where do they go to school? The old town yard, where would they go to school?
Well, they probably go to school now to West, I would guess.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how it's districted, but I would think West L would be the closest, and then West Middle.
Okay.
So,
Do you see this zoning changing our business at all? And what's going on just in general with real estate in Andover?
I think long term it'll provide a lot of opportunity, especially for people that potentially for either empty nesters or people that are just starting young in their careers, or in their family life. If you figure if somebody works in Boston and similar to I think as successful was the units down by Ballarville Station, right next to the train station. There's a lot of commuters there. So if you think and envision people that work in Boston or anywhere along the line, the Haverhill line, it's an advantage. Plus you can walk to town. So, we're unique. I think we're definitely unique where we have a large piece or decent sized piece of property essentially right downtown. That's available for growth. I mean, that's right adjacent to the commuter rail. That's something that towns that are somewhat fully built out like Andover don't have that opportunity. So, it's been something that's been worked on for many years, and it's nice to see it finally get to this point where we're going to move forward.
We get some charts the other day that I thought was really interesting from our marketing department. Over 50% of the buyers that are buying in Andover are not from the Andover area at all. They're all coming out from Boston. They're all from different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what it is they're probably like your kids, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
that live in the city, and now they're like I'm a grandmother now, Alex.
Welcome to the club, Debbie. I got 5 of them.
Do you really? Well, And so I think that, they're coming out to the suburbs. So that would be great if they could have a little bit more to choose from.
Absolutely. I mean, people want, and also, our kids want to come back to Andover and live. It's been very expensive. So if there's different opportunities and different options for people for affordability, that, and then I'm hoping that there's, potentially maybe over 55 again that comes by that we could, provide seniors that are looking to downsize to be able to stay in town affordably.
We see a big push for that. And I think there's a new development going up in Middleton near Angelica's.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's going in the 750 to 850 range.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are looking to spend less than that.
Yeah.
They
Sure.
don't want to spend at that price point at that age. They want to buy down.
Right.
So a lot of them are actually going to New Hampshire.
Well, if you figure, yeah, you guys know the economics of the housing market better than I do, but if what's the average house in Andover? 600,000 now? Over
Yeah.
It's over that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Say 650 or say 700.
Yeah, seven.
The sevens.
So if it's sevens and somebody wants to downsize,
Right.
they're going to look to spend less.
Mhm.
Right. So if you go up to like there's a 55 plus in Derry that's in like the 400, 500 range right now. But a lot of people they're having second thoughts about selling their homes in Andover because what they could buy in a 55 plus development is the same price as what they could sell their home in Andover for.
Right. You have to go somewhere. Yeah.
Right. Mackenzie and Diana, do you have any questions for Alex?
This was all helpful. I don't have any. You asked great questions, Deb. You took them all.
Well, I find it interesting what's going to happen in Andover with this new. When he texted me and he was telling me about this, I didn't realize about that district.
Right. That's Harton. That's kind of central to the I think to the motivation of why this was done, and it makes sense. I mean, it does make sense.
And it just seems like the old town hall is just sitting there.
The Old Town Yard.
The old town yard, right?
Right.
It's just sitting there. So it's just like it seems like almost a perfect place. So it will probably land there.
It will. It's always been kind of the first piece of the historic mill district, and as I say, it's been many years in the making. It's been a lot of residential input. Paul Matarazzo and the planning board have done a great job as far as getting input over the years, and so that's all been distilled. And as I say, it's going to be exciting to see what kind of proposals we get.
I think it's also interesting that, I mean, I know they've been working on this for a very long time, but with coronavirus, with less and less people going into the city and having to go to work in the city, like I wonder what will happen in the future if people will remain to kind of work from home majority of the week, or, if there will be that influx of people going really back into the city and having to work in the city day in and day out. So I think it was just kind of an interesting time for them, to pass this. And I know that it probably just was over time, but it's just interesting how it all kind of lined up at a time when people aren't really going into the city as much anymore and trying to get out.
Yeah, it's great. The traffic to the north end is very light.
Well, so many companies I talk to are, they're not even talking about going back until, second half of the year, if at all this year.
Right.
So, this is, and I think as we come out of this, hopefully sooner than later, I think it's going to change how we look at, our work life anyway.
Definitely. It's amazing how much it's changed us. I mean, when I would do a market analysis before, I would go into somebody's house. I'd have a lot of paper in my hand, and I would go over, thumb through paper. And now a lot of times, if I see the house for the first time, then I go back, I put an email together with links, and we do it over a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
So and I can email them the whole market analysis and the stats of what's going on in town, and it's changed our business quite a bit. Yeah. So, Alex, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for
And-
thanks for the invite. And there'll be a lot more on this zoning. I think there'll be resources and there'll be links on websites and things too for folks that are interested. It's, as I say, it's relatively new, so we're it's pretty exciting to see it.
All right, we'll check back with you and get an update of what's going on.
Okay.
All right. Well, everybody have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, team. Bye.
Bye-bye.